Last week, we were told by Riot Ziegler that ranked mode for Valorant would likely be coming this week after initially being told that they didn't want to release it immediately on the game's release because those people that didn't get a chance to play the beta, they wanted to give them a chance to catch up and get up to speed and on the same skill level as everyone else. And also because they wanted to test their networks and make sure that they were stable before the competitive mode came out. So we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and that week is finally here. It is finally the promised week of Valorant Ranked, and your boy is excited as always. And with the release of Valorant Ranked comes some changes that we'd all been hoping for. They changed the icons for the ranks, they changed the name of the top rank, they made it more accessible to play with your friends, and they told us that there's more changes that they would like to implement later on the horizon, but for now they're working on nailing Ranked specifically as it comes out. So let's look at these new ranks though, because I think they look pretty spicy, and I gotta say, I'm a fan of the new name. You can see that they've got a bit more flair to them. They look a little glossier and shinier as opposed to the old ones, and they changed the color that they use for Immortal, which I think looks way cooler now. It looks more elite to me, I would say. And the top rank is now called Radiant, which also got some slight visual upgrades, and well, it's not called Valorant anymore, so that should clear up the confusion, and it goes with the game's lore, so it works for me. They're also making it easier to play ranked with your friends during placements. So even if there's a decent gap in between your ranks, you should still be able to do ranked placements with friends, unless, for example, you're like a diamond player and your friend is an iron. They're probably not gonna let you play together. However, they say it is more lenient now. And this is actually an issue that I ran into personally when I was trying to play ranked with my friends. We queued up for one placement game. It was our very first one. And after that, I just wasn't able to queue up with them anymore. They're also trying to solve the issue in the advantage of solo queuing versus 5-stack queuing for higher level players, but that's something that they plan on sharing more about in the future. Ranked mode will be live in this coming patch 1.02, and they say that in every Valorant act or season, whatever you want to call it, which should be about 2 months long each, just so you know, they'll start tracking our ranked progress and showing us stats for that season, like the number of wins that you have, your total achieved, highest rank that you've gotten, and then other just information about your overall performance in ranked. They also mention requests for features that support teams, in-client tournaments, and other things like leaderboards that they say will be added eventually, but they're not coming out quite yet. So now that we've got our look at the new Valorant ranks and the new Valorant rank structure, let's talk about Shroud, because he says that Valorant ranked will never be good, and he compares it to MOBAs like League of Legends and Dota 2.
It just sucks that in this game, it's never gonna be like League or anything, or a MOBA, Dota, because there is too much coordination and too much skill required for a whole team to be on the same page when they're not a whole team. So in games like League and Dota and stuff, they could do their own, they could play their own lane, play their own role, and then they eventually help each other, and team fights exist. In this game, it's way more complicated than that. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is ranked and shit, it'll never be good.
So he makes the argument that there's too much coordination required in Valorant for a team that's not a 5-stack to be good, where in League you can play a game with a bunch of randoms, just kind of focus on your lane and just try your best to carry yourself. He says the coordination required in a MOBA is a lot simpler with random players than it is in Valorant. And I think a lot of League players are turning their heads right now like what? Because as a counter argument, it's like, what do I do if the random players that I'm playing with, my whole team just kind of sucks in League, and they're feeding their lanes? There's not much really that I can do about that at that point. It's pretty much just a guaranteed loss unless the enemy misplays. But Shroud clarifies his point further.
Oh yeah, I used to play Dota a lot. And people could say people could say MOBAs require actual more coordination. They can say that all they want, and it's true, but it's not at the same time. The coordination that you do in a MOBA is much simpler with random players than it is, the coordination of a MOBA as a team is way harder, but not random player. It's weird. It's weird to explain, but
I get what you're saying.
Basically, how do I explain this? It's much easier to play your role and do your part in a random game than it is in this game. Because doing your part and playing your role, it's not just a role. Everyone has to be really, really skillful, and they have to be on the same page, and they have to be working together, right? So the actual coordination needed at the top of a MOBA is much higher, but it's just in pubs, it's totally different. Fuck, that's so hard to explain when you think about it. It makes sense in my head. I just don't know how to say. I don't know how to say it.
So as he says, it's a little weird to explain, but I think I get what he's saying. Basically, he's telling us that playing pubs in League is easier than it is playing pubs in Valorant, because in League, you could kind of just play your role and do your part. You know, if you're a tank, you're going to do just that. You're going to tank. You're going to throw yourself into team fights. You're going to soak up damage. You're going to CC the enemy. Where in Valorant, Shroud says that it's not just a role. Everyone has to be on the same page and everyone has to be really skilled, which I would say applies to both games. But Shroud says that the coordination required for the top of a MOBA is much higher. And while I understand where he's coming from, I imagine that players from both games would have some very differing opinions. Like, you could say that League pubs are harder because, you know, if one person messes up, the entire team can suffer for it. Like the one guy in bot lane that fed the enemy AD carry, and now the enemy AD carry is running wild, and the entire game is screwed. Or I could look at Valorant and say, oh, my teammate wasn't walking right here when he needed to walk, so now the enemy heard him and they know where we are. Or my teammate didn't communicate where an enemy was when he died, and now he got a flank on us and the entire team is dead. Stuff like that. It can be kind of difficult comparing the two games with differing genres, of course, but I would love to hear you guys' opinion about this. Do you agree with Shroud in that MOBA pubs are easier than Valorant pubs, or do you think it's the opposite? And are you guys excited about the new rank changes? Do you like the new name Radiant instead of Valorant as the top rank name? Are you happy with the rank placements changes? Let me know, guys. I would love to hear, and let's get some good discussion going. I'll see you all very soon. I hope you all enjoyed. Take it easy and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.